outside. I'll get rid of that notification. There we go. I'm doing this outside, so I don't know what the quality of the stream is going to be like. If it goes crap, I do apologize. But that out of the way, let's get straight into it. It's a cold, wet, miserable day here, and Nick and I were going to go high banking, but we both got old man back, and I've got a serious case of I don't want to be out there. So we're going to crush gold ore. Now, these are samples. These two pieces here come from a new vein. I have not done anything on it. I don't know if there's gold in this at all. These two pieces, on the other hand, I 100% know that there is definitely gold in here. It's unlikely that we're going to see any kind of major chunk or big piece out of these pieces. It's all very fine free mill gold. I'll explain a little bit about why I sampled these veins, and then we'll get into the crushing. The crushing is actually going to take a little while because I'm doing this manually by hand. I could start up my big crusher, but there'd be a lot of, it's a bit of overkill, right? So let's get into this. These pieces here have come from a vein very close to where my current working reef is. And they've got all the right things. These are pockets of sulfides. That white material down here is actually sulfides that now that they've come in contact with oxygen are starting to burn away. And they've got heavy mineralization on this side. You can see these pockets of black material. These are iron pockets, which is a heavy, heavy indicator that there could be gold in there. You need iron in your quartz veins to have gold precipitate out when it was a liquid. Now on this rock, it's the same vein. You can see more of these pockets. These pockets are what we like because these pockets indicate those iron sulfides, and this is where your gold nuggets will often form. Now, I don't know if there's going to be gold in this. I really hope there is. That vein was found very close to where I am currently working the gold ore that this comes from. Now this is from our really rich lode deposit. These pieces are going 5 to 5.5 ounces per ton. And there's not actually one vein. You might be able to see it through this rock. We're actually dealing with a lot of very small veins running through the country rock. So this is the host rock. We've got one vein here, another vein running down there. We've got another vein running up here. And if we flip onto the backside, we've got more veins crisscrossing. And that is happening because it's sitting directly on a fault. And because it's sitting directly on a fault, we've got one main vein going back into the mountain, and then we've got what are called on echelon reefs, a series of reefs coming off horizontally. So we've got the fault line, and then all these horizontal reefs. And that's what this is. This is the main reef. So this is right at the core of where all those other reefs shoot off from. Now, this ore goes different grades. There are incredibly rich sections of it where we're getting little nuggets, and there are incredibly poor sections where we're just getting a tiny little bit of flour gold. When I say poor sections, it drops down to like 2.5 ounces a ton. It's still pretty good, but not comparative to what it is in the richer sections. Let's flip this around. I'm going to show you the equipment we're going to use today and why we're going to use that. Phew. All right. We are going to be panning these. Whoa, rotate device, Chris, Jesus Christ. I have here a water cover tank, a cover for a water tank inlet hole. This stops leaves and debris from going into your water tank, but the mesh size in here is about 20 mesh, and that's pretty good for sampling. So I picked one of these up from local hardware shop for about 10 bucks. We're just using a regular gold pan in there. And I've got a dolly pot that a mate of mine welded up for me. Now, you can use a few different things for dolly pots. This one is literally made, obviously, from some heavy gauge 3mm pipe. We've got a very thick base on it because that's what's going to take all the impact. And then we just welded a rebar handle on it. And this is a piece of bar stock. So that's homemade. But you can use a star picket driver, which is a very small version of one of these pots you can buy from hardware stores. And if you have access to old car wrecks, you can buy an axle stub. Axle stubs work really well. Or you can go to a steel place and buy yourself an offcut of steel just like this. We are going to do these two bits first. I think these two bits, I really want to know if there is gold in this vein, because if there is, I'm going back and we're going to get a whole bunch more of it. Now, if you do have questions, guys, I'll try to answer them as we crush. I don't know what the volume's going to do once I start banging this. I won't be able to read comments while I crush. And I'm probably not going to talk either because I don't know how loud this is going to be on the other end. So we're just going to do this. Hopefully you guys get some bit of ASMR rock smashing going on and enjoy it. And I'll talk through the process once we get it into the classifier. Ooh, that's a hard rock. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Alright, so first pass. The reason we want this rock as fine as possible. So 20 mesh is a good mesh size to sample at. When we go to processing, if this ore here has gold in it, when we go to processing it, we want it to get it down to at least 100 mesh because the gold in this will be super, super fine. You can't detect it with a metal detector, and to have a rock like that, you could have 200 or 300 pieces of gold locked up in it at the mesh size we're talking about. Therefore, for this, we're going to sample to 20 mesh, but if it has gold, we'll actually process this at a much finer rate. Okay, we're getting down there. Dolly potting always takes a lot of time. I'll just put that out there. Between this rock and the other rock from the same vein, it's probably going to take me a good 10 minutes or more to smash it down to mostly the same size. See that powder? That talcum powder is what we want to process this down to, because that is fine enough to release any super fine gold. Even pieces, if I can pick one up, even pieces like this are way too big. Even these little crumbly sand looking bits, they're way too big for ore processing. Most of your gold is going to be locked up in that fine gold. And with the idea of going out and chasing ore bodies with metal detectors is pretty much a guaranteed way to fail, because you're going to miss all these ones that can go 5 ounces a ton, but a metal detector can't see them because of the really fine gold particles. So just bear that in mind if you are hunting gold reefs. Metal detectors are a tool you can use, but they're not the be all and end all. Most gold isn't nuggets. this one in there. So this is the same ore body, exactly the same ore body, exactly the same reef. But I like to do samples of about 2 palms full. It doesn't give you a guarantee that, like, I could crush both of these, not see any gold, and it doesn't mean that this ore body doesn't have gold. I might have to sample bigger, but this will give us a really good indicator of the kind of minerals that are in there, if there is any gold, if there are other precious things like galena in there, which is silver and lead mixed together. Sampling, not processing, sampling. See how hard this one is. Very. Ooh, but it liked to crumble. That's good. Okay, let's talk about what it actually feels like to crush ore like this. See that? See that iron? That's why it crumbled so easy. That is a really good sign. That crumbly iron material there is a weak point in the rock. So the quartz is hard. When I hit that first hit on it, it didn't do anything to it. I changed the angle a little bit. Must have hit it on a soft spot, and the whole rock just crumbled to pieces this size. That's a really good indicator. Look at the iron. The more iron we have, the better chances there are of there being gold in it. That was good. So that shows potential. Also why you pick multiple bits, because the bit you pick might not have that in it. Like that didn't have any of this in it, even though that piece looked better from the outside. Man, them some good looking bits. Look at that. So in our main ore body, which isn't too far away, there is a lot of silver and a lot of lead associated with the ore. That's good. And that's what I'm starting to see. This silvery content in some of these pieces is likely galena. Might just crush those big bits down first. Sometimes when you're doing a dolly pot, if you leave that really small stuff, it acts like a cushion in there, and it tends not to allow the big stuff to break up properly. The other thing we've discovered is that when you tap on good quality ore in this area, it kind of sounds like glass or even ceramic when something metal touches it. And that's what this piece is doing, which is good. It's not like a given, but definitely for our area. And I can't see, guys, I'll just point that out. I do apologise. Hopefully Debbie or Trev's there and they're able to field some of the questions you might have. All right. Now we're down to this amount. So we have quite a lot of -20 mesh in the pan and only a little bit here. So we're going to do one more pass on this. I'm just going to try and reduce all of those big bits down to the same size as what those small bits are down there, and then we'll pan it off. Now I know there'll still be gold, if there is gold, locked up in these little pieces, but this is sampling. And sampling is not about recovering every single piece of gold that is in these rocks right now. That's why we're only doing a couple of small ones. I can reprocess, and that's what we do. We take the tubs of sampled ore and run them back through a ball mill once we identify that there is actually gold in the rock. Work smarter and not harder and all that jazz. Says the guy using a dolly pot instead of his RC1 impact crusher sitting over there. But we don't talk about that. I'm calling that pretty good. So we're not going to classify it, this just goes straight in the pan. That's our sample crush. Let's go over to the water. Once again guys, I cannot see your comments. So please bear with me. In between the ore crushes, I will stop and put the camera around and have a break and then chat to you guys. Right, so we don't know if there's gold in this. If there's gold in this tiny little sample, that's a really good start. If there's not, that's okay. I'm still going to process an entire bucket's worth of it just to make sure. You need to do bulk samples because the vein isn't consistent in gold. It can be richer in one spot and poorer in another, just like a creek. We're going to see a little bit of steel from the dolly pot in here. Hopefully we'll see some heavy indicator minerals like galena or iron. And obviously we really want to see some gold. And we get nice and slow. I'm only trying to take dirt off from the very front here. I don't want to take dirt off from the back because there is going to be a lot of fine gold in this if there is gold. And it's very easy to wash it out of your pan if you let the water come to the back. So we're just getting rid of all the stuff in the front riffles. And unlike a creek, because there isn't any mass accumulation of black sand or ironstone in these, the gold tends to go right to the bottom and sit there, so you don't see it, you don't see any indicator minerals till you get right down to the last little bit. It's very tricksy like that. I don't know. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, you're on a chair at the moment too, guys, so just trying to get you in a little bit better of a position for me to pan down in. No, that's not going to work. Hang on. Hang on, technical difficulties. Let's go forward a little bit. There we go. All right. If there is gold, it's going to be fine. I'll try to get you a close-up. And then bits of steel off the dolly pot. Gold. Oh, there is gold. Yeah, okay. Okay, hang on. Let's see if I can get you a close-up of this. This is really fine. Really fine. Right in the center of the screen, that's the biggest flake. There's also 3 more flakes sitting around it. They're tiny. They're really tiny. Hang on. Let me put all my junk down. Turn the camera around so I can have a little bit of a break from smashing. Now, a lot of people are going to say that wasn't very successful. You didn't find very much gold. But I did. A couple of notes. Let's talk about ore and values. That was 2 very small handfuls of ore. We're probably talking about 100 gram crush. At 100 grams, that means if I got 3 visible specks out of the minus 20 mesh crush, not all of it was crushed down. So let's just say if I crushed all of that to minus 20 mesh, I got 4 little pieces of gold. Every kilo, that's 40 pieces of flour gold. And every ton, that's 4,000? No, 40,000. 100 times. 40,000 pieces of very, very fine gold. The ratio usually is, if you can see one speck like that of visible gold in a pan after a crush of 100 grams, you'll get at least an ounce a ton, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's probably not commercially mineable, but for people like myself that run small rock crushing gear, it's definitely viable. It's probably, and there's no guarantees in hard rock ore, it's probably going to pale in comparison to when I crush this up next, because this stuff I know has a lot of fine gold in it. So we are going to take this all the way down to the finest of fine gold. Fine powder, that's what we want to do, is get it on. Ore hunting is tricky. So a lot of people, when I found this reef and I showed that pretty impressive, almost 4 grams from a single bucket of ore. So we got 4 grams of gold for a single bucket of ore. I said you should claim it and you should do all sorts of stuff like that. And sure, if a claim was a reasonable price here in Australia, I could, but there is a lot to it. It took 3 days to process that 1 bucket down to that 100 mesh, and that's simply because of the process you've got to go to. Not only do we have to extract this out of the face, which is difficult, we then have to go through the process of giving it its first crush, which is to get it down to something like what we just did, that fine powder. Then we have to put it through the ball down to powder. Then we have to process it the first time with a sluice box. Then we have to reprocess the tailings again to make sure that we get, with a different setup, to get all that super, super fine gold. So there's a lot of work. It could be streamlined, but as a hobby prospector, as someone that's set up with amateur gear, it's difficult. I'd have to invest a lot of money and equipment to get that process efficient. Right, let's see what we can get out of these two bad boys. I am going to leave those 3 specks in this pan, so we should see more than 3 specks. Should. No guarantees. There's no guarantees in there, but we know there was about 3 specks in that. We should see a lot more. We should see a lot more sulfides in this, and we should see hopefully a lot more gold. Fingers crossed. Again, ore has richer spots and poorer spots within the vein. It actually works much like a river system. I can talk about that later. Let's flip the camera around and do some crushing. Wow. Camera. And for those of you who want to know, a claim in Australia, it costs $25,000 just to apply, and they can say no, and it's non-refundable. Listen to the sound. Hopefully it's translating with all this wind, but when you hear a ting, that's what I mean, a piece of quartz is containing the gold, and that ting's very glassy. I think that one was mostly country rock, it just exploded. We know from our crushes so far with this stuff that most of the gold is 200 mesh or smaller. It is really, really fine. So even at that size, the minus 20 mesh, we're probably throwing away 40% of our gold because it's still locked up in the rock. There's a big difference between this stuff and the other stuff, as you might be able to notice. It's a lot redder, indicating a lot more iron, a lot more oxidization going on in it. So much host rock in this. Okay. Yeah. It's all stuck down the bottom. We're starting to get down to the stage where most of the host rock is broken up, and we're left with the few hard balls of quartz that were running through that host rock. As I showed you right at the start of the video, this was made up of multiple small veins, whereas the last piece was a chunk of the main vein. So this is just those small veins all fractured up, and if they're left at this stage, it's usually because they're made from something harder than the host rock. So most of that stuff probably won't have any grade in. It's the host country rock. Oh man, it's raining sideways here. It's bloody disgusting. I need a funnel. All the equipment and no idea. I've definitely got too much in my dolly pot. I got ambitious doing both rocks at once. Okay, we're not going to do as much at once so I can really smash some of these pieces down. Oh, that's better. Yeah, I managed to smash the quartz down. Just cover the bottom, Chris. Don't overload it. You knob jockey. I hope there's good. I'd be pretty happy with that small piece of rock. Hey, what's going on? You woke up from your nap. Alright, I know everyone's going to want to see Fern, probably. She just woke up from a nap. Haven't you, Grumpy? Yeah. Alright. We're getting down there, guys. We're getting down there. It takes a long time to dolly pot this sort of stuff up. Actually, on that note, hang on a second. Wait a minute. Oh, it gives me an opportunity for a break, and also I just want to explain one thing about energy. What you see in any Vo-Gus prospecting video is a snapshot of the day. And what I try to do is pick out the most interesting or the most relevant things that happen during that day to show you guys. I get a lot of comments regarding like, oh, If I something like that, I'd be there all day. And fair enough, I completely agree. Finding that reef, I didn't want to leave, and I've been back a dozen times to collect more ore and so on and so forth. And the same thing with alluvial deposits. You only have a certain amount of energy. You're seeing in real time how long it takes to smash up just 4 palm-sized rocks. And we're not even doing it to the fine grade that you really need it to release all the gold. My point is, you just have to take it with a grain of salt that what you see, because it is just that snapshot and it is just the best parts, it's not all of what we've done that day. And there's a lot of energy invested in coming out to places like where the reef is or on the creek where a good gold deposit is to set everything up and process the dirt. So just bear that in mind when you see anyone's video. So much effort goes into this. It is hugely physically taxing on your body and even on your brain, because you've got to be switched on and just making sure that you're doing everything correctly to maximize the gold recovery you're getting for the effort that you're putting in. On that note, flip this back around. Alright, we are almost there. One tip I definitely learnt was to check the end of your breaker bar, because sometimes you'll get pieces of gold literally just stuck to it. One more pass, then we can pan it, because that'll be the vast majority of it done. And again, we're going to pre-process this whole tub, because we actually did a full-scale ore crush and smelt, which is a video that's coming out very soon. And we panned it off into that tub, and we know, because it's from this ore, we've got to get it finer. And again, I have no idea how many people are watching, guys, or if anyone's commenting, but I can't see comments. Alright, I'm calling that good enough for now. Yeah, it's not bad. That's not bad. Okay. Over to the tub of water. Now, obviously, I'm just going to say this. I have my RC1 crush right here. All of that could have been done in about 10 seconds. But that would have made for a really crappy live stream. So, one day we'll do that. We'll get the big crusher out. For today, we're dolly potting. Now, we had 3 little pieces of gold in here from the last run. But I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot more fine gold. You can see a definite difference in the color of the mud that's coming off. To me, it's giving all the indications of heavy mineralization, lots of iron. It feels heavier, it's moving different in the pan too. These are all things you've got to pay attention to when you are doing, well, any kind of prospecting. Often you can tell if you're going to get a good pan just by the weight of it. It shows heavier minerals that are sitting in your pan in greater quantities. Something with ore too, you really want to make sure that you're stratifying regularly. The gold is super fine, but it's also got shape. So even if the bit's like 100 mesh, it'll be 3D. It won't be a flat little piece. And they tend to catch the water and get pulled out of your pan or your sluice. You've got to be real careful with how you process ore. Aussie Bloke Prospector has a great tutorial on recovering fine gold from his ore crushers. He uses a cement vibrator to do it. Very, very interesting. But something to be mindful of if you are sampling. Now, I've got pieces of ore that have been incredibly rich, nuggety ore that we picked up with the metal detector. When you crush them, you can get a gram or two more. You can literally get ounces out of rocks the size that we crushed up today. But the difference between those rocks and this is we're talking about very, very fine free mill gold in this, with only a few nuggets scattered about here and there. Alright, getting down to the pointy end. Might just go get some clean water for this one too, guys. Give me a sec. Clean water. Right. So we're just going to put some clean water. Help us see. Tilt this bad boy up a bit so I can actually pan down again. I will try to get a close-up. Hopefully we're going to see more than those few little pieces. Obviously these, oh my god, I'm just going to zoom in right now. I can already see it, guys. Look. See that? Put some water over it. All that's gold right on the edge. You can't even detect this with a metal detector. Look at how much gold. Look at how much gold we just got from that rock, guys. Look at that. 2 handfuls of that rock. And that's what we got. Bam. Easy as. And we have buckets of this stuff. That's why we got almost 4 grams of gold from a single bucket. Really, really rich ore. That's 5.5 ounces a ton. I wasn't actually expecting that much gold. It was a bit of a surprise. Normally, most of the gold is like this, super fine. These little chunky bits are nice. So obviously, one of those pieces I picked up was a good one. Not bad at all. So that is ore crushing. That's why we do all of that hard work, because I've spent days on creeks trying to prospect and pan alluvial gold for far less than what I just got out of that pan. Hard rock mining is something that I'm actively pursuing a lot more. I don't think that my brain is enjoying it. The challenge of finding reefs, working them, crushing them down is super rewarding. And I've been doing so much alluvial prospecting for 6+ years now, full time, 6+ years of alluvial prospecting. And I feel like in some ways I've really completed a lot of it. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do from now on. Well, not from now on only, but a lot of my videos are going to be focused around doing this sort of stuff because I thoroughly enjoy it. You should see some of the gold we're pulling out with the metal detectors up at the top hidden mines, because those mines are untouched by modern prospectors, and we're pulling out a ridiculous amount of nuggets and nice ore just like that. And so that's what we want to focus on, because I think it's an area, especially on YouTube and social media, that isn't really tapped into. It's not really explained very well. I'm still learning about it, and I think it's a good opportunity for me to hopefully teach some of you guys who are in the right areas to be able to go out and find this sort of gold for yourselves. especially in areas, say, like in the US and Canada, where putting a claim is a lot easier than what it is here. And hopefully it can really help you guys out in doing something like that. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this ore crush video. It's a bit different. I know it took a little bit of time, but I think the results were damn worth it. I'm going to leave it right there, guys, because if I don't go, I'm going to wet my pants. And I don't want to do that on a live stream. Remember, if you haven't already signed up to this Patreon account, please do that. And on Patreon itself, we are giving away ore just like that almost every single month for you guys to play around with. Some bits obviously aren't going to be that rich. Some bits are going to be just as rich. We don't know because we haven't crushed them. We send them to you as a piece, but it all comes from the same reef. So if that's something you can sign up for. It costs a whole $1 to sign up, which is pretty cheap, I think. And we do monthly giveaways and you get early video access. Until next time, please give your dog a big scratch behind the ears for me. I'm going to go. I got to pee. Bah! Yeah. Bah!